Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I want to talk about the movie Hard Boiled. And this is the John Woo film from 1992. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, we're going to dive right in. So, a long time ago, this movie came out, and I remember seeing it for the first time and being just blown away. I loved it. It was one of my favorites. Kind of started me on a lifelong obsession with John Woo movies, and while there have been some ups and downs along the way, it remains something that I've really enjoyed. So, Amazon Prime released it not too long back, and I picked up the copy, but it was the original audio only. Now, normally I'm all for that, and I think that subtitles are better than dubs, because dub versions of these movies can sound really ridiculous and just, effectively be kind of silly because of the way that they change the dialogue and some of the inflections that the people use to make the movies. It's just not as authentic. So the only problem that I had was that I grew up on the dub, and the dub is awesome because some of that cheese contributes to the movie a lot. Now, it was sad that it wasn't there, but hey, at least I had the movie finally. I hadn't been able to watch it for years because I had it on DVD and I got rid of all my DVDs. I had thousands of them. They were taking up too much space. And the few that I kept were, I don't know. I don't even know why I didn't keep it, to be honest, but I didn't. And so I had hoped, I guess, maybe I just believed that it would show up on digital eventually through iTunes or whatever. Well, it finally has now come to iTunes, and the good news is you get both the dubbed version and the original version. This movie looks fantastic. Shout Factory is the company that put it out, probably did the cleanup or however they did it, and it looks fantastic. I watched it both on my computer screen and I watched it on my big OLED TV. And both of them were just amazing. So kudos to them for the technical side. They really did a good job. Now, interesting point, the dubbed version audio is a lot quieter than the original Cantonese version. That version sounds more vibrant. Maybe they cleaned up that audio track better. I don't know. But it does sound better all around to listen to it in the original language. That said, the dub is exactly the same as I remember it right off the bat. It starts with the guy saying, "Not me, I'm a lifelong Hong Konger," or whatever. And you just know, yep, that's exactly what it was back in the old days. Now, if you haven't seen Hard Boiled before, it's completely over the top. The stuff that happens in it is nothing short of a pure catastrophe. It would be the kind of thing that might bring about martial law. It's so insane at some points, especially the very end. The basically long ass action scene at the very end of the movie is completely crazy, and it takes quite a while. Even the opening segment where it's in the tea shop is just crazy, but awesome too. And when you think about what it had to take to go to do those scenes, it's just incredible. There's just so much stuff exploding and so many extras and lots of gunplay going on. It's really nuts. And this starts my old school days of going, wow, nobody has to reload weapons at all. These guns just shoot as much as they happen to need to. There's even moments where Chow's pistol slide is back, showing that it should be empty, but then he shoots it the next scene. Now, we could assume that during the cuts they're reloading, I guess, if you care, but I don't. I don't really care how it works. These movies don't resemble reality in any stretch, so it's easier to just take them for what they are. Fun, wild action movies that basically started a trend. And I'd say that the old John Woo movies like The Killer and Hard Boiled did to action movies than what John Wick movies did to action movies when they came out, where they sort of created this super artistic version of violence that's almost a ballet. Once we got out of Hong Kong and started doing them in America with things like The Replacement Killers, where Antoine Fuqua turned the choreography into a dance, it really did show that we could adapt that stuff and make it different for other movies and show off a little bit of what these guys pioneered. And I think they did a really good job. So Hard Boiled is available on iTunes. Right now it's $15. I thought it was completely worth it. Sure, it's really old, but whatever. Second movie also came out at the same time, City on Fire. I wasn't as excited about that, but hey, it's there. And I was like, why didn't they put out The Killer? Especially since John Woo just redid that movie like last year with the lady who is in Paris instead of Hong Kong. And so I checked right before I made this video, and it is available for pre-order and will be coming out July 22nd. So we'll have The Killer and Hard Boiled, which I think are the definitive movies. And then just for fun, I really enjoy Once a Thief. But as far as the movies that are John Woo essentials, I would say The Killer and Hard Boiled are definitely the two. And then there are some of his American movies that are super fun, but they're totally ridiculous, like Face Off and Hard Target or Broken Arrow. But those are very much more standard American action movies that just happen to have some of his choreography and style. And in fact, he really became overly addicted to slow motion by then, and that got kind of annoying. But these older movies, the ones that he did in Hong Kong, absolutely worth it. And if you haven't seen Hard Boiled, I highly recommend it. It probably won't have the impact today that it did back then, primarily because back then it was a little bit more unique, the idea of the story. I mean, you've got Chow Yun-fat playing a very grizzled cop who is just really hardcore. He kind of becomes obsessed with breaking this gun ring, triad guys, running around doing all kinds of bad stuff. And then there's this hitman who's on the inside. You don't really know what his story is, but he's kind of a brooding character. And he's played by Tony Leung, who was in Shang-Chi recently. And he's awesome. So I don't want to give it away in case you haven't seen this movie. I mean, what is it? I don't want to do this math. Almost 30 years, I guess. Yeah, it's almost been 30 years since those came out. But whatever, it's worth seeing. And if you haven't, then I don't want to spoil it. And if you have, then you know what I'm talking about. Some of those cliche plot points that we've sort of taken for granted at this point. They're all there on display. Sort of the templatized version of these types of movies for later films. We've got movies that effectively started a genre, like La Femme Nikita. If you watch that now, it'd be like, I've seen plenty of these female assassin movies. This is nothing new. Well, it started that kind of trend for the most part. So, much like that, these John Woo movies did that to other action movies, where they start to be borrowed from or straight stolen from in some cases. Anyway, have you seen Hard Boiled? Have you seen The Killer? What's your favorite John Woo movie from the old days? What's your favorite movie of his ever? Let me know in the comments and let's talk about it. Anyway, this is Robert with Society Case Files, signing off.